Welcome to Chapter 9, The Royal Path. Really excited for this chapter. Actually, every time I read this chapter, I feel deeply humbled and grateful for this path to have come into my experience, to be a devotee of Krishna, of the self. Um, Sometimes it really just brings even tears to my eyes reading this chapter, the way Krishna talks. So let's get into it. And also, I'm just really enjoying doing these chapter summaries. I hope you're enjoying it too. So Krishna says in verse 1, because of your faith, I shall tell you the most profound of secrets. Obtaining both jnana and vijnana, you will be free from all evil. I think the way Eknath Easwaran defined jnana and vijnana was jnana meaning like wisdom, and vijnana meaning like the embodiment of that wisdom. He said, obtaining both of them, you will be free from all evil. And notice how, once again, as we're progressing through the chapters, Arjuna is becoming a greater and greater devotee of Krishna, and he's understanding more, and he has even greater faith and devotion to him. That's why Krishna, right, says, because of your faith, I will give you more and more. I will bestow more and more knowledge to you. I will give you the secrets. So he says, this royal knowledge, this royal secret is the greatest purifier. Righteous and imperishable, it is a joy to practice and can be directly experienced. The royal knowledge, the royal secret, the royal path he's talking about is devotion. And he'll describe devotion in many ways in this chapter, devotion to the self. So we'll get into that. And that's what he's saying. It's the greatest purifier. It is also a joy to practice, and it can be directly experienced. I felt this too, in the beginning when my practice was just meditation, um, and the path of knowledge, like understanding. That was great too. And that was a great purifier. But I feel like only when I really started to practice the teachings of the Gita and also included devotion, faith, surrender into my spiritual practice, it gained like a softness it didn't have before, a certain love, a feeling of joy that it didn't have before. So, and I really saw that like devotion, faith, surrender is what broke down some of the walls that I was hitting in meditation. Sometimes when I felt stuck, devotion and faith and surrender, that is what softens the ego, purifies the mind, and allows us to even go deeper in our meditation and understanding. So I can fully attest for how Krishna says here that this royal knowledge, this royal secret is the greatest purifier. And it's a joy to be practiced, which it is, and it can be directly experienced. Can totally enrich our experience. So Krishna says, those who have no faith in the supreme law of life do not find me, Arjuna. The supreme law of life is the dharma, is the spiritual practice, the spiritual life. In verse 4, he says, I pervade the entire universe in my unmanifested form. All creatures find their existence in me, but I am not limited by them. So he says, behold my divine mystery. I bring them forth and support them. I am not confined within them. They move in me as the winds move in every direction in space. So just like the example of the sky, which supports the weather, but the weather does not affect the sky. The sky is not confined by the weather. It is simply the spaciousness in which the weather comes and goes. or the space in which the space which supports all things but is not confined by any of the things which inhabit it. Krishna is the support, the source, the substance of everything and everyone. All forms come alive and die in it, but Krishna is not confined by them. They move in me as the winds move in every direction in space. I pervade the entire universe in my unmanifested form. Anywhere we go, anything we do, Krishna's presence will always be there. He pervades everything. You cannot experience time and space without his presence. Nothing exists without it. One of our goals in the spiritual practice is to become aware of that, to constantly remember his presence. And in verse 9, he says, none of these actions bind me. Right? He's saying that like he's constantly all this whole creation and dissolution. He says, I do this again and again, but none of these actions bind me. I am unattached to them, so they do not disturb my nature. And Krishna is talking about his nature as being unattached, therefore he's not involved or confined by anything that happens. And we can actually source great wisdom from this regarding our own spiritual practice, how we have to become, the attitude we have to embody, and not like a mental attitude, but like what we have to truly embody. We have to practice non-attachment, free from attachment and aversion. Therefore, we start to realize our true nature as Krishna. In verse 11, the immature do not look beyond physical appearances to see my true nature as the Lord of all creation. The knowledge of such deluded people is empty. Their lives are fraught with disaster and evil, and their work and hopes are all in vain. So people who fail to look beyond physical appearances, they have no spiritual knowledge, and therefore they are bound to this world of change and death. And no matter how much they know about the world, their knowledge is entirely empty because they do not know about the source of knowledge. They do not know about the source of and the substance of all objects. So even knowing a billion things, they are still ignorant. That's why, all the sages say that knowledge of objects is not real knowledge. They say it's empty because concepts are empty. There's no reality to anything concepts can project. For example, the word book is not this. Concepts can never really touch life. Concepts can only create ideas about life, but ideas are always, right? Concept and ideas is really the same word. They are one step removed from reality. They are just an image or a description of life. They have no, they cannot touch life as it actually is. No matter how much you think about a book, it's not the experience of this. No matter how much you think about God, it's not God. So all concepts, all conceptual knowledge is empty. It is an idea about life. It is not life. And that's what the spiritual practice is doing. It's helping you step out of concepts into direct experience of life, direct experience of yourself, the I amness, which itself is not an experience. So in verse 11, he's also saying that, like, not knowing or failing to look beyond physical appearances. And when we just live our entire life in like a chase for pleasure and personal gain, all the things you do are just in vain. death will take them away, and that you'll never be happy. Their lives are fraught with disaster and evil. So in 13, he says, "But truly great souls seek my divine nature. They worship me with a one point in mind, having realized that I am the eternal source of all. Constantly striving, they make firm their resolve and worship me without wavering." How many times I have read this, and constantly, the mind goes back to its habitual ways of wanting and desiring and addiction to transient experiences. This is why we have to keep this spiritual wisdom close to us always, constantly being reminded, constantly returning to these teachings. That's the whole purpose of our school as well. We have to constantly keep divine company, people who genuinely enrich our practice. They like people and teachings which remind us what needs to be remembered so that we do not fall prey to the conditioned tendencies of the mind. So truly great souls seek my divine nature. They worship me with a one point in mind. So here he's talking about the path of devotion, right? You can worship Krishna in many ways, and he will talk about it in just a few moments. And like coming from India, there's a lot of worship, you know, worship of many sorts. And soon Krishna will talk about that too. Because our worship is not limited to one way. It's not just, praying to a statue or constantly thinking about a form of God. So worship can be in those forms, but it is not limited to that. So in 15, he says, some follow the path of jnana or spiritual wisdom. They see that where there is one, that one is me. Where there are many, all are me. They see my face everywhere. So real worship is about learning to see Krishna or God or self or source in everything. In the first line of this, he says, right, like of this chapter, he says, I am like I pervade the entire, sorry, that's not the first line, but he says in verse 4, I pervade the entire universe in my unmanifested form. So part of our spiritual practice, the path, the royal path, is learning to see Krishna everywhere and in everything. In this very experience of us going through this lesson together, Krishna is present here and now. He's present through me. He's present through you. He is the talking. He is the listening. He is the reading. He is the understanding. He is the spiritual striving, the seeking. He is the realization. Be filled with Krishna. Be filled with yourself. Love of self. This is devotion. This is faith. This is worship. And I jumped the gun a little bit and went ahead. But he says in verse 16, I am the ritual and the sacrifice. I am true medicine and the mantram. I am the offering and the fire which consumes it, and to whom it is offered. So you see, he's saying he's everything. He is the one who is offering the worship. He is the worshiping. He is the object of worship. I am the mother and I mean the father and the mother of the universe and its grandfather too. I am its entire support. I am the sum of all knowledge, the purifier, the syllable Om. I am the sacred scriptures, the Rig, Yajur, and some Vedas. In verse 18, I am the goal of life, the Lord and support of all, the inner witness, the abode of all. I am the only refuge, the one true friend. I am the beginning, the staying, and the end of creation. I am the womb and the eternal seed. So Krishna speaking as the absolute reality. And the one point here that I want to emphasize here, he says, "I am the support of all, the inner witness of all." So your inner witness is Krishna. You have to honor him, remember him. You worship the inner witness, Krishna, by remembering the inner witness. It's the path of meditation, right? So on the next page, in verse 22, those who worship me and meditate on me constantly without any other thought, I will provide for all their needs. This one really helped me, this one passage, this one paragraph, when I was just beginning my journey of surrender. Those who worship me and meditate on me constantly, I will provide for all their needs. You know, sometimes when you're living in surrender, you really are afraid that, like, hey, my life might fall apart. What's going to happen to me? But I just kept trusting here. And I found that, Krishna takes all care of all my needs. He'll take care of all your needs too. He will take care of all your needs through you. You'll influence all sorts of thoughts and actions that will continue taking care of your personal life, but make your entire personal life about Krishna, about yourself. Make him your only refuge and your object of devotion. So in verse 23, he says, "Those who worship other gods with faith and devotion also worship me." So, throughout the world, we worship God in many different forms, many different ways. Every culture, country, and like religion has a different way of honoring and worshiping God. I really truly believe that the essence of all religion is the same, although sometimes religious teachings, create too much confusion for people and it gets lost in too many concepts. So that is avoidable. But I think the essence and the message of every teaching of all religions is like pointing to the same reality. And we may worship many gods in different names and forms, but without even knowing it, we are worshiping Krishna. Well, or even when we worship Krishna, we're worshiping the one true self of all, who is beyond Krishna or Christ or Buddha. I am the object of all worship, its enjoyer and Lord. But those who fail to realize my true nature must be reborn. So again, in verse 25, he also says, those who worship the Vedas will go to the realm of the Vedas. Those who worship their ancestors will be united with them after death. Those who worship phantoms will become phantoms, but my devotees will come to me. So he's basically saying, whatever you devote your life to, whatever you worship, which is like whatever you are devoted to, whatever you desire the most, that is what you worship. So he says, whatever you worship, you will get. Therefore, worship Krishna. Devote yourself to Krishna, and you will go to him. And I love verse 26 and onward because it really teaches us how to live this path of devotion and worship. Whatever I am offered in devotion with a pure heart, a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I accept with joy. Whatever you do, make it an offering to me. The food you eat, the sacrifices you make, the help you give, even your suffering, make everything an offering to Krishna. The watching of this lesson, when you could be doing a billion different things, make that as a form of devotion to Krishna. You sitting down to meditate, that is your worship. You doing your work, totally unrelated to spiritual matters. Even your work, make it an offering to Krishna, service of Krishna, right? As he said, he is the worker, he is the working, and he's the result achieved and the benefit or the person benefiting by work. So even your personal worldly work, make that even an offering to Krishna. When we live in this way, when everything is just about ourself, I mean, not our personal self, but our true self, it is all a worship, a devotion to self. Your whole life becomes an expression of devotion and worship. That is what he's talking about. Make everything an offering to him, and he will purify your mind and enrich your life and bestow spiritual wisdom. He says, in this way, you will be freed from bondage of karma and from its results, both pleasant and painful. Then, firm in renunciation and yoga, with your heart free, you will come to me. So, living in this way, it dissolves karma and matures the sattva quality, purifies the mind, helps us realize our true nature, sets our heart free, makes us more and more established in yoga, in union, in non attachment. I love this verse 29. He says, I look upon all creatures equally. None are less dear to me and none more dear. Whether you're on the spiritual path or not, whether you're a human or another creature, all are equally dear to Krishna. But those who worship me with love live in me, and I come to life in them. I've experienced this. The more that I live my life in this way, in total devotion and love of the truth, the more I see it coming to life in my experience. And it's not anything extraordinary or crazy or like what we like to think of as spiritual and blissful. It is totally simple, yet absolutely extraordinary in a way. You know, it is just full of love, of truth. There's simplicity, harmony, acceptance of whatever appears. So that's how I feel like, what Krishna is saying is like, I come to life in them. You know, he takes us beyond suffering. He enriches our life with wisdom and clarity. And he says in verse 30, even sinners become holy when they take refuge in me alone. Quickly their souls conform to the Dharma and they attain to boundless peace. Never forget this, Arjuna. No one who is devoted to me will ever come to harm. Beautiful. This does not mean that nothing unpleasant will ever happen to them, but he's saying still they will not come to harm. Perhaps he means spiritually. They will always ascend spiritually, those who take refuge in him and are devoted to him. Because, when he speaks, he's not just talking about this life of birth and death. To him, this is nothing. So, from a personal perspective, you may say, oh, but this person died or this person, got hurt. Oh, but he's devoted to Krishna. How could this happen? Like, that's an immature perspective from a personal viewpoint. So, in verse 32, he says, all those who take refuge in me, whatever their birth, race, sex, or caste, will attain the supreme goal. This realization can be attained even by those whom society scorns. And then he says, kings and sages too seek this goal with devotion. So you see, like, even kings who have everything, still they seek Krishna with great devotion. Sages too. So, therefore, having been born in this transient and forlorn world, give all your love to me, not to transient things. Give all your love to Krishna. Fill your mind with me, love me, serve me, worship me always. Seeking me in your heart, you will be at last united with me. You see, if Krishna was speaking as a person, he would sound like a really selfish and needy person, right? But he is talking as the source, your source, the source of everything. And he's he's trying to wake you up. Stop being lost in transient appearances. Stop worshiping illusion. Wake up, worship the truth, remember the truth, devote yourself to me, the truth. He's speaking as your own real true self, your source, your inner witness, your inner teacher, your guru. So reading that, I'm always very, very grateful and humbled. Fill your mind with me, love me, serve me, worship me always. This is the path of devotion. So as we meditate and as we, you know, live in this world through selfless action, adopt this attitude of worship. See Krishna in everything. So let's talk about today's points. All right, chapter 9, the royal path. So Krishna is the support, the source, and the substance of the entire universe. See him in everyone and everything, every experience. Krishna is present as your own inner self, inner witness. Make everything you do a form of worship to him. Keep him in mind always, full of love to him. Make him your only refuge, support, and goal. Your only safety, your only security. Surrender to him entirely. Don't rely on anything else for a sense of security and identity and happiness. This is true worship. Devote everything to him. Your pleasures, pains, successes, failures. Go through every experience without resistance as a form of devotion to him. Especially when you're going through a period of suffering, go through that go through that suffering without resistance. Even that is your form of worship and devotion. Stop constantly wishing for things to be different. Stop always being in conflict with this moment. In doing so, you dishonor Krishna, you dishonor yourself, and then you suffer. Everything from the simplest of things like washing the dishes, be there. Notice Krishna's presence in even that experience, which is so simple and mundane. Notice his presence here and now when we're talking about him. Again, his presence is your presence because Krishna is your inner witness. Honor him by remembering him always. It will make you feel so connected, at peace, at rest, full of love, happiness, clarity. Right? That's why he says, like, when you live like this, it will fill you with joy. It's a joy to practice and it's directly experienceable. That's why it's called the royal path. It requires a little simple mindedness. A lot of people who are very intellectually oriented sometimes feel this is like too childlike or even sometimes religious. But, you know, that's your decision. I always found being simple minded and childlike on this path has always helped me and kept things very clear and simple. I'm not interested in intellectual arrogance or trying to constantly protect myself from something. So I strive as much as possible to devote my entire life and the way I live, the things I do, the achievement of my goals, and even the struggling of achievement or even failures. Everything I should try to devote to Krishna. I try to go through every experience with total acceptance. I do not succeed always, but I do my best. And that is enough. Even our striving, even devote that, even that is a form of worship. Okay. So hope this lesson resonated with you. Let me know what you think about it below. Bye. Have a good day.